It's August, so that means we're already starting to think about those fall colors. When will be the peak time to see it? And will this year's show be a good show for us here in Colorado with those aspen leaves? So let's start things off with a bit of basic climatology. When do we typically see those peak leaves? Usually in the northern mountains and along the I-70 corridor as well. Usually it's the second, third, or fourth weekend of September. So somewhere in that September to kind of 13th through the 30th window, that is usually when we get that peak, and that varies a little bit based off of some other weather conditions that we'll get into. Now, also, in our southern mountains, we can see those peaks as late in the San Juans, for example, as early to sometimes even as late as mid-October. And again, that varies based off of some other climatology. Aspen leaves in general, what you want to see to get a really good kind of a prolonged peak, you want a couple of things. One is you want a wet growing season. So April until about early to mid-July, that is usually when we get the most water across the state of Colorado. You want to get a lot of water. That gives those trees a bit of a healthy base. The other thing you want is you want to have warm nights, warm days and cool nights. So warm, for example, about 70, 65, 70-degree days, lots of sunshine, and cool, but not cold nights. You don't want frost because that can kind of kill off those leaves a little bit early. You don't want high wind events either in the month of September. So between about mid-August and late September, you want to have warm days and cool, but not cold nights and no big wind events. So with that said, how are we looking here in the state of Colorado? I would say in general, we're trending probably a little bit later on the peak. So I would start looking at perhaps the third, fourth weekend of September. So somewhere between September the 20th and perhaps October the 2nd will be the peak for a lot of the main areas that we look at. So Guanella Pass, some of those usual areas. Reason being, we are in a bit of a drought. Now, drought can sometimes actually speed up our peak, but it does look like we had enough of a wet season that I think that September the 20th to early October time period will be the main time window for that peak season for us here in Colorado across most of the main areas, central and northern mountains. Southern Colorado, more the first to perhaps second weekend of October. Unfortunately, though, it does look like we didn't get quite enough water. We've got a lot of drought conditions across the western slope in particular, so west of the Continental Divide. Unfortunately, it does look like we may be looking at a shorter peak and maybe not quite as vibrant of a show, especially with those aspen leaves as usual for us because of those ongoing drought conditions. Again, it was not a wet growing season, but hopefully we can maybe get a bit of water here in the next few weeks, and that maybe helps things out a little bit. So hopefully it gives you a good idea about what to expect for this season.